Hey Eugenia, it's Dustin. And yeah, I wanted to make you a video today. And today's actually the day that I'm going on my haunted Halloween tour in Jacksonville. So hopefully they'll let me film it. I'm assuming they'll let me. So I'm filming this intro on the assumption that they're gonna let me film the tour. So, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't, but yeah, we'll see. It looks like there's two tours. The one that I opted for was the one in downtown Jacksonville. So it should be around just the downtown area. There's so many historic buildings down in the downtown part. So I'm looking forward to hearing all the stories. So the tour guide is going to be talking about the ghost stories of the hauntings and stuff going on in the house, but also about the history of the possible spirit or entity of the person that is doing the haunting. So, like, you know, how they died, or what was going on at the time. There's a lot of historical stuff in it too, so it should be pretty cool. With the me, I just love history, so it should be really cool with all the added on history they're going to talk about, and why they think there's a haunting in a certain place, and what people have witnessed or claim they've seen. So I'm sure you've watched some ghost story stuff, so it would probably be like a ghost story, like documentary kind of thing. So yeah, so this should be pretty cool. I've never done this before, so but yeah, so boy, it's almost 4 o'clock, so we're gonna be getting ready to leave here real soon. It's at 6 o'clock. I think there's no more than 6 to 7 people in a group, so I think it's around 6. We got to be there like 10 minutes before, so yeah. Coming up pretty soon here. I'm going to be heading out, going to my mom's house first, so, but okay. Hopefully they'll let me film, so yeah. And here, I just wanted to show you real quick. I know I sent you pictures of my tree and stuff, but I also thought I would just show you in the video as well, because in a video you can get a little bit more idea of what something looks like. So yeah, so here, let me show you real quick. So here it is. I know you've seen this tree before. Of course, I keep it up all year long, just like you're keeping yours up. And yeah, it's currently decorated as Halloween, which is the best. So here's a good look at the tree. Got the orange lights. Got some new ornaments. There's a new Sally ornament right there that I got. And there's a new Jack ornament. My mom got me that. And you can see, like, right here, it's kind of hard to see them, but they're like orange crystal teardrop ornaments. So I thought it was really cool. So yeah, that's the teardrop ornaments. And I also got a whole bunch of these pumpkins. So yeah, I love the pumpkins. The pumpkins are a really nice addition. I got a bunch of them at that garden store. And the garden store is actually in Jacksonville too. There's lots of cool stuff in Jacksonville. So yeah. So I think my tree is fully tricked out this year. And my dad, I just sent you this DM about this little, it's an ornament, but it's also a little statue you can stand up. So yeah, he got me that the other day. That was really cool with Jack and Sally at the gravesite. So yeah, that is the tree. So I'm really happy with how it came out this year. So we made it here, Eugenia, and yeah, we're gonna go get started. Looks like there's a bigger crowd of people than I thought. I think it's maximum of 12 people, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah, this is gonna be pretty cool, but it should be dark by the time we get there. So yeah, we're gonna start walking. It's at the library. It's the Jacksonville Library here, right behind me, you can see. So alright, well, I'll pick the video up when we start going to the first house, so yeah. I think I have to wear the mask too, because I think they require a mask for certain people who aren't vaccinated like me, so I'll probably have to wear a mask. So I was hoping to not wear one in the video, but oh well. Alright, I'll pick this video up soon. Just checked in, so yeah, we're at the visitor center right here. I think I took some Christmas pictures here not too long ago, so yeah. Oh yeah. Looks like the tour guides, one of the ladies is going up there, but they're all dressed up in Victorian era clothing, which is really awesome. So, you know, I love the Victorian era stuff, so it's like one of my favorites. So the lady that checked us in, here, let me show you. She's all dressed up. Yeah. Yeah, they're all dressed up in Victorian era. Yeah, it's a really nice night to do this. Right, Mom?
It is.
A really nice night.
Really nice. You couldn't be more perfect.
And the lanterns are coming on too. I love the lanterns.
Oh, look at
Probably
the
see them up here. Kind of see the lanterns there. Lanterns are on. Oh my gosh. Here she goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here comes one of the ladies dressed in Victorian era. So cool. I think it's getting ready to start, Eugenia. So she's got her lantern, and I think she's getting ready. Oh, she gave it to someone. Should be going to the first house in just a few minutes.
History walking tour. And we hope you enjoy our tales of sorrow, woe, and regret. Now here in Jacksonville, we take our history very seriously. And we also recognize that some of our pioneers left us a legacy, and that some of them are still here in the form of spirits and ghosts. Jacksonville began in the 1850s as a gold mining town filled with miners, merchants, and women of ill repute. And we're starting our tour here at the original depot for the Rogue Valley Railroad. Now this was Jacksonville's attempt to maintain its regional prominence after the Oregon and California Railroad decided to run railroad through Medford instead of Jacksonville. This was a little spur railroad that connected us to Medford, but it failed to maintain our position as the economic hub of Jackson County. It was the beginning of the end road for Jacksonville. We slowly faded into oblivion, became the ghost town that we're going to be talking about tonight. Now this tour is approximately an hour long. We're going to be going over some uneven ground, so please watch your footing. Watch for cars. We know they have to watch for you, but some of these little back streets, we're going to be walking right down the middle of the road, so please be aware of your surroundings. Now, we're going to cross this street, cross the next street, and end up on this corner and talk about the Pine Mail House. So follow me. I lived in a Victorian home, which is where our visitor center is now. And William Plymale operated the Excelsior Livery Stable, which used to be right on this corner. Now across the street and next door to the phone exchange building, which is there on Oregon and California, was David Lynn's lumber mill. Now in 1888, what is believed to have been an arson fire destroyed the lumber mill, everything on that block, a whole lot of what was on California Street, and the Pine Mail home. The Pine Mails were barely able to flee with the clothes on their back. They eventually ended up in this house. Now we know that a child ghost inhabits the Pine Mail house. He's been seen numerous times, and he may be the Plymale's young son, who died in one of the many scarlet fever epidemics. Before vaccinations obviously became available, or invented even, disease epidemics would wipe people out, especially the young and the old. As a result, many of our ghost stories tonight are going to be about child ghosts. Now this ghost is a young boy, and although we're not really sure who he is, we can tell you that he is a mischief maker. He likes to run up and down the stairs, turn the light switches on and off, and when the house was recently undergoing construction, he would move the carpenter's tools at night. So, spooky. We're going to head down to the next corner, and we're going to be there for a while talking about just about every part of that.
This house right here. That's what that story was about. That's cool. Child ghost in that house.
This house. And although it does not have a ghost that we know of, it does have a very interesting backstory. Now, Mary Ann and George Harris had a homestead near Louse Creek, which is not far from where Grants Pass is now. And they had a daughter, Sophie, and a son, David. Now, a war party of Indians attacked the Harris homestead during the Rogue Indian Wars of 1855. Historians believe it was a retaliatory strike because white settlers had previously attacked an Indian village while all the men were out hunting and slaughtered women, children, and elderly. And, in an act of revenge, one of the homesteaders they attacked was Mary Ann Harris. Now, accounts vary, but we know that George Harris was killed almost immediately. Sophie was wounded, and David was sent for help and was never seen or heard from again. Now, Mary Ann was able to hold off the attack for over 5 hours with Sophie's help, reloading the family's 3 weapons and firing them from various points in the house in an effort to make the attackers believe there was more than an injured little girl and a woman in the house. Now, at one point, Mary Ann supposedly counted 21 attackers, some hiding in the bush, some displaying the scalps of her neighbors. And around mid-afternoon, the attackers apparently became bored with the stalemate and went off to seek vengeance against someone else. Now, shortly after that, Mary Ann and Sophie moved here to Jacksonville, and she purchased this house and rented rooms to pay the bills. And one of her boarders was John Love, which brings us to the Love House right across the street. Now, John Love immigrated to Jacksonville in 1853. He became one of our city's leaders. He was in the tin plate and sheet iron business, or what we might call hardware now, some stoves, things of that nature. He also served on the town council, and he platted Jacksonville's historic cemetery, right up the road. In 1859, his mother was the first person to be buried in Jacksonville's historic Pioneer Cemetery, even though it was not officially open yet. Have anybody been up to the cemetery? No. Oh, yeah. Wonderful. It's a great place to visit. Now, Love became enamored of the charms of Sophie Harris, and when she turned 16, they married. Soon after, he built this house. The couple had 4 children, but the marriage was short-lived when Love died of tuberculosis after only 7 years. his wife, Sophie, and their daughter, Maggie, died within days of each other in the smallpox epidemic of 1868-1869. The nurses who witnessed 3-year-old Maggie's death said, other than them, she was alone in the room, that she brightened up and began talking to her mother. No one else was there, but the child insisted that her mother was standing at the foot of her bed and had come for her. Maggie chose to join her mother in death, but the two never left the house. Say it with me now. Now, the 3 remaining children were raised by their grandmother, Mary Ann Chambers, who then married a man named James. Has anybody been out to the Hanley farm? Yes. Mary Ann is considered a matriarch of the Hanley family because Sophie and John Love's children, one of them, I can't remember her name, married Michael Hanley and started that whole dynasty. Oh. Small town. Now, across the way, we have the fire station, which has recently undergone renovations.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally the site of one of Jacksonville's many hotels. It was a Chinese hotel. Now, hotels and boarding houses were often used as cover for illicit activities. And although called a hotel, this business was busted by the police for operating as an opium den and a brothel. White women as well as Chinese women were employed in this particular brothel. And records show that a woman named Laura White was a slave to the hotel owner, Jim Lee. According to White, she had been a slave to opium as well, and she'd had a Chinese master since she was 15 years old.
Jesus.
She had been sold to Ling in San Francisco for $200. Now, reportedly, Ling became convinced that White was not giving him all of her earnings, and he stabbed her in an altercation. She's been seeking revenge ever since. We're going to walk, we're actually in the street here, and we're going to just stop right across the street from this roundhouse.
Yeah, this is
But he built her a bigger house.
a cute house.
That is a cute little cottage.
Yeah.
Built around 1855 for Jacksonville's very first town constable. And this is the town's oldest home still in existence. Now, it's worth noticing that the house was built with 2 front doors.
Spooky house.
One with a porch, and then this one with the wreath. Why did they leave that out? I'm about to tell you. Shut up, Sally. No, don't shut up ever. No, you go ahead and ask. Now, it's actually a common architectural feature of the time. And historians posit that one of the reasons could be because women often died in childbirth. And it was considered bad luck to bring your new bride in over the same threshold that your old bride went out.
There you go. Wow.
If your next one died, you take her out the same way the first one. Or anyone interested in construction, you'll see there's a stacked stone foundation.
Yeah.
There is no mortar. It is stacked stone. And for anyone interested, also, Matthew Kennedy was also the Jackson County's very first sheriff. And if you go online and look at his picture, you will see why I called him the hot senator. Make a right on this corner.
Are you going to come when it's dark?
I know. Coming up to this old farmhouse. This is.
It looks dusty.
Yeah, check this out.
Oh, look at this. You're going to have to get closer because people are coming. They had it open years ago.
I'm gonna have to go to the other side. Yeah, this looks cool. I like that. It's really cool. I took pictures here. This is like where the old car was that I took pictures. They really decorated that for fall. That looks so cool. Walking to the next place. So interesting so far. Ooh, there's a deer in the road over here. A couple of them. Look at the deer. There's a little deer there. Got a baby.
Did I send you
This lovely house, which used to be as yellow as its fence, is the Thomas Kinney House. This was built in about 1898 for Thomas Kinney. This is one of the few remaining Queen Anne style homes in Jacksonville. And a family who previously lived here also had an antique business in town. And I'm sure you've heard the expression cherished possessions. While the house itself may or may not have ghosts, the spirit owners of many of the antiques that were in the house certainly lingered with their family treasures. The rocking chair would rock by itself. It was captured on a video. A plate flew across the room. But most activities would happen at night. The family would awaken to find things rearranged. Sounds like maybe the young Pinehill ghost may have visited. It was as if the item's original owners were reluctant to turn loose of their cherished possessions. We're going to continue to the corner of 5th Street. It's going to be a little loud there, so let me know if you can't.
That's a cool house. Looks like they're redoing it too. Very nice. Queen Anne style.
Now this building, kitty corner, it's gray and white across the street. It's known as the Catholic Academy, and it actually has a complicated history. Built in 1861 for Charles Savage, who was the owner of one of Jacksonville's most notorious and oldest drinking establishments, the New State Hotel, Billiard, and Saloon. He also sold patent medicines, or what we would call snake oil, on the side. This property was deeded to the Sisters of Holy Name around 1864, when they were brought to Jacksonville by the local Catholic priest to open a school for girls. The school initially was located here, but it was replaced by St. Mary's Academy, which was up on Beekman Square. However, this building continued to house the nuns and became their hospital during the 1868-69 smallpox epidemic that we've talked about already. Now, smallpox ravaged Jacksonville during this period. Stores and schools were closed, church services were canceled, assemblies were canceled, the entire town was under quarantine. Is this ringing a bell with anybody? Now, the nuns were among the few residents who would actually nurse people with this dreaded disease. The Catholic Academy became what's known as a pest house. The nuns nursed the sick who were dying, some of whom still linger in the rooms and halls, where they found care and compassion. Now, a subsequent owner was a Dr. Danforth, who used the house as both his office and a residence. His medical ethics were, well, let's say they were a little sketchy. In 1881, he was condemned for the high cost that he charged the county to care for the county poor, which brings us to the Magnolia Inn. Now, the Magnolia Inn began life in 1911 as Mitchell's Sanitarium, and I believe it's for sale if anyone's interested.
It went pending.
Now, this was inspired, you may not want it after I tell you the story. This was inspired by the Kellogg brothers' Wellville movie. Has anybody seen the movie The Road to Wellville? It's pretty strange. Don't show it to any minors. However, the Kellogg brothers advocated holistic treatments, vegetarianism, they emphasized nutrition, enemas, and exercise. And the brothers also created the health food Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Now, in the 1930s, the county began placing its poor people here. Because the property values in Jacksonville were the lowest in the county, and there were plenty of potential caretakers to care for the county poor. Now, Mitchell's was used as one of these poorhouses, but it was as much a hospital as it was a sanitarium. Most of the residents were elderly, suffered from dementia, and in short, it was a place where the elderly were left to die. And some of them, of course, have never left. Some of them across the street. We'll be stopping across from the old county jail.
This right here, this house right here, that's where she was talking about the nurses and everything else over here.
Do you have an approximate?
And this is the Magnolia Inn that she was talking about. It's haunted. this was an elderly place, so yeah. Really cool so far. A lot more stories than I thought. I thought there'd be like, I don't know, 5 or 6, but it looks like there's like probably gonna be close to 20 or more. So, oh, we're going up to the old courthouse, I think. This is cool.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about the county jail here first.
Mm-hmm.
This is a smaller building that now houses art presence. This is our historic county jail. This one was
County
built in
jail.
1911, and it is the 4th jail built at this site. And it has reported hauntings for years. February of 1886, for example, a condemned murderer, Louis O'Neill, complained of a Chinese ghost keeping him awake. Now, the Ashland Tidings reported that the ghost of a man named Tom, who had hanged himself in the jail cell, was trying to get his bones sent back to China and performing a bunch of pranks. As an aside, Tom had been arrested for sluice box robbery. It's very serious in my opinion.
Sure.
And he protested his innocence in Chinese. But he had a newspaper that he tore, according to the newspaper at the time, tore into shreds and arranged in order of Chinese characters proclaiming his innocence and hanged himself. Anyway, one night the sheriff took that cell that allegedly housed Tom's ghost. An apple pie order, he locked it, carried off the keys, and the next morning he found the bed clothing strewn about. The picture was moved from the washstand to the nightstand, and the mirror had been turned to the wall. Now, apparently Tom's bones were never returned to his homeland. One of our tour guides believes she encountered his ghost in her teens. She served as a docent when the jail was still an adjunct exhibition building to the Jacksonville Museum, which used to be our old courthouse. Now that building only experienced limited activity, so she would frequently read the book to pass the time. And one day, while sitting and reading, she was moved about 3 feet. She ended her teenage docent career shortly after. But Tong is not this site's only ghost. The jail where Louis O'Neill was incarcerated burned in 1889 with 3 inmates locked in their cells, including one who was due to be released the very next day. It seems that the sheriff, who, when there were people in the jail, was supposed to sleep there, chose instead to spend his night on the then existing 3rd floor of the U.S. Hotel and sample the wares of some of the ladies who sold their favors. Any children here, I don't know why I'm being so careful. Now, the sheriff received neither punishment nor reprimand, but the ghost of the inmate who burned to death tormented him to the end of his days. Now, this open space between the jail and the courthouse is where Louis O'Neill was hanged for the murder of his lover's husband, right there on that.
Hanging right there.
A gallows was erected, a 16-foot tall fence was erected to keep out the looky-loos, but 200 people, men, women, and children, were invited to be witnesses to this hanging. On March 12 of 1886, O'Neill became the last person to be hanged in Jacksonville. And O'Neill apparently was sure his name was identified. One of our researchers who contributed to tonight's stories refuses to commit any names. As a child, she saw the apparition of O'Neill hanging from the wall.
Yeah, so that was like right down there. Right down there.
I'm waiting to see something.
I know, me too. I'm going to remember all this, so whenever I come back here, I'll be looking.
Service courthouse.
We're at the courthouse now.
When the county seat was moved to Medford. Now, from the 1960s until 2010, as I mentioned earlier, this building was the home of 7 Oregon children. Museum volunteers would frequently report unexplained occurrences in this building, specifically in the second floor courtroom, especially on the prisoner's stairs at the rear of the building.
Unexplained phenomenon.
People often felt an unseasonably chilly draft. They would feel the pressure of a hand on their shoulder, even the small of their back, as if someone was trying to push them. Now, more recently, someone sensitive to spirits was allowed to spend a couple of nights here in the courthouse. She experienced seeing a brawny man on the stairs.
Probably a psychic medium.
He was different somehow, not liked, and she saw him being beaten to death on the prisoner's stairs. The city has now sealed off those stairs from the public. We'll move down the street, walk here, and stop right in the center of the next block.
Sealed off those stairs.
I used to actually come here when I was a kid. They had a whole bunch of exhibits and everything here. Really interesting. I used to come here as a kid.
That was the
Yeah.
children's store.
I know. Yeah.
I guess it's not like that anymore.
Yeah. Hopefully you can hear everything that she's saying because there's a lot of road noise. But yeah, a lot of these buildings I've known my whole life, and I've never known these stories. So this is pretty incredible. I think I'm going to remember all these stories. So every time I see the buildings, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's for that little boy, the ghost running up and down the stairs. Brothel. Didn't know there were brothels here. Opium shops. It's crazy. It's really nice out here tonight. It's like in the 80s, so it's like the perfect time to be out and everything. All right, here we go, next one.
This is best known as the Kaminsky House. 8 years of prostitution, 1953, in search of gold, like everyone else was. They soon found that there was gold in selling shovels of women and digging up gold himself. So he opened his own dry goods store. He also owned that old barn. Farming became more important in the valley than mining. He opened Kaminsky's Agricultural Implements, selling big farm equipment such as plows, graders, harvesting machines, and the newfangled steam tractors. However, the main portion of this house was built around 1867 in Jackson County, Florida. At times, the back room on the right may have doubled as his morgue and autopsy room. More
Mortuary.
recent occupants have found themselves avoiding that room, if at all possible. Displays in the room would suddenly collapse, and some describe the closet in the corner as similar to the Oregon vortex. When they walked into the room, they would feel drawn to that corner. They would find themselves walking toward it. Objects would roll toward them. Now, this room also houses the ghost of a child, whether the offspring of a later occupant or a child that may have been a victim of smallpox or diphtheria or many epidemics.
I think this house is 1853.
This child has been seen peering out of that window, seemingly longing to join the children's play. We're going to cross California Street.
Do you know anything about the building with the spires right across it?
That is our historic Presbyterian church. It was built by David Lynn, the fellow whose lumber mill burned down and wiped out half of town. He built that building.
Oh.
He also constructed many of the coffins. People are buried in our cemetery. I think it was finished in about 18, late 60s, early 70s. Beautiful. Beautiful. The bell was bought by C.C. Beekman.
Talking about this church back here.
And he's the wealthiest man in town.
That church spire.
Beekman was married to beautiful old building. It's not open. You can't go in it. Pre-COVID, it used to be open for reflection, but they have their services in their new church. Yeah. That was the sad tale of Jane McCulley. I mentioned to someone that I have nicknames for some of our pioneers. Matthew Kennedy's the hot pioneer. John McCulley was the deadbeat pioneer. So, Jane and John McCulley came west in 1851. They were some of the first white people to end up here in Jacksonville, lured by the promise of gold and adventure. John was a doctor by training, and Jane was a teacher. But when they reached Jacksonville in 1850, there was no call for a doctor, and there weren't any children here to teach. So, Jane supported the family by baking bread, cakes, and pies, and selling them to the miners for $1 apiece. John invested the family money in real estate, including the first two-story brick building, which is on Oregon Street, the Oddfellows Hall. Built that. And he was elected to the territorial legislature, and he built the McCulley House. It was the finest residence in Jacksonville at the time. But John's finances were extremely overextended, and his creditors were unforgiving. So, what did John do? Did he sell some of his property? No. Did he look for some other way to get work? He owned a dairy. He owned a quartz mine. Did he work that up? Make some money that way? No. In 1862, John McCulley got on a stage and left town and never came back, leaving his wife and their 3 small children with all of his debts. So, Jane forbade anyone from mentioning John's name again. I can't imagine why. So Jane, of course, again turned to baking pies, bread, selling them to the miners and citizens. There are a few more people here by then. She never got over being abandoned. And at the McCulley House, both guests and staff have reported seeing a woman dressed in late 1880s attire, weeping at the top of the stairs. Why she would be crying, I do not know. Now, John also seems to have regretted abandoning Jane because former owners of this B&B reported seeing John sitting in a chair in his bedroom. One guest even asked him for his picture taken. As an aside, John, when he fled Jacksonville, they'd never divorced. They stayed married. He died and she died. He went to Wallowa, Oregon, where his brother was born, and worked as a gardener. Did he ever send money back? No. To my knowledge, he never saw his children again.
The McCulley House. I love that house. Very cool. Such a nice house still. Very nicely restored. Well, this place is all decorated. I keep missing all the decorations. More witches. That's so cool. This whole place is just decorated. Jesus, look at this. That's a big ass cool spider. Nice.
Haunted Jacksonville is a specialty store for gourmet food items. Built around 1861. This was the second two-story brick building in Jacksonville. In various times, and a general mercantile, a newspaper office, the office of the Oregon Sentinel newspaper specifically, a saloon, and a grocery store. Now this was also an entertainment venue for some of Jacksonville's male populations. You see, if a woman was not a wife and a mother, there were very limited opportunities for single ladies to find gainful employment. At least one chapter available talents, entertaining gentlemen, in the upstairs room. It could easily be accessed by a separate stairway that used to exist on that side of the building. She apparently is still keeping an eye open for customers. So gentlemen, be careful. Now, the mercantile owners often found their stores in various different places, and products were frequently moved. The ghost also had an aversion to strong smells like cinnamon, took particular offense at the scent of these spices, and would turn the bottles over and empty them out. I've not heard whether the ghost approves of the current objects. Now, the story of gentlemen seeking entertainment and ladies seeking income is one of the oldest in history. In the late 1800s, the U.S. Hotel across the street had a third floor, which is where certain hostesses provided services for local Germans, including the sheriff we talked about, who was around up there when he should have been keeping an eye on the prison. As did the New States Hotel, which is located where the Redmonds Hall, this brick building that says Greenhouse Saloon, now stands. So turn a corner here and walk up to the next block.
Love this wine tasting place.
That would be a nice place just to go and sit.
Yeah, really cool. This is a really cool place. It's a wine tasting place.
You have to have wine.
What now looks like a 1950s style ranch house on the opposite corner was originally an impressive three-story home built by John Miller. Miller was a frontier gunsmith. He assembled gun parts, made guns,
This place right
stocked all the
here.
weaponry necessary to allow frontier living from his hunters and foragers. Now, thanks to the abundance of wild game and dangerous Indians around Jacksonville, this business was immediately profitable. By 1890, Miller's success allowed him to build a three-story Victorian home here for his wife and his 8 children. It was one of 3 large Queen Anne-style homes in Jacksonville. The only one left is the Newman House on Oregon Street. The plans, it's often called a catalog house. It's called that because the plans came from a catalog, not the pieces for the house. Now, the Miller children grew up and moved away. John and Mary grew old and passed, and the Miller house passed through a various series of owners, one of whom, according to various stories, was a professional gambler, but not a very good one. According to local legend, this owner was caught cheating at cards, and his body was found dangling from a noose on the front porch. Now, the result is one of 2 ghost stories for the Miller house. When the city administrative offices were here, employees experienced doors slamming, opening, closing when no one was there. Footsteps would be heard in empty hallways. And when the cleaning service brought a dog for company, late at night, the dog would not leave the house cleaner's side. Hackles would rise and he would growl at the front door. Even the police officers chose not to go into that building at night. If they had to file a report, they would sit in their cars out front instead. Now, the top stories of that house burned in a 1944 fire attributed to the then owner's smoking. He rebuilt the ranch-style house that we see today. He apparently still regrets his carelessness, but not enough to give up smoking. Even though it was a smoke-free zone when the city offices were there, whenever the city recorder arrived for work, she swore she could smell cigarette smoke. Now we're going to talk about the real house here. Also for sale. It's a very beautiful Italianate house across the street. This is the John Orth house, another hot pioneer.
right there.
Urban-born John Orth was a very successful town butcher. And he constructed the Orth building, which is on the corner of California and Oregon. There's a big balcony, there's a Mexican restaurant on the second level. He built this house, and he and his wife Ellen raised 7 children in this house. Now, Ellen was Irish. And when the Gaelic Banshee spirit visited her after her first 2 sons died in infancy, her grief, which was expressed in traditional keening and wailing, earned her a stay in the state mental institution. Upon her return, she treasured her remaining family and held them close. She continues to protect them to this day, shutting and locking doors. Now, apparently the children also linger, savoring a childhood during which they were much loved. In recent years, a house sitter was keeping an eye on the place in between owners. And one night, as she read to her daughter in bed, her attention was captured by a softly glowing round shape up near the ceiling. As she read, the shape would come closer to her. When she stopped reading, the shape would move into the ceiling. Now, on subsequent evenings, this experience recurred. However, every evening there were additional lights. The woman reported that when she read for a long time, she felt as though she were in a warm embrace. And after tucking her daughter in, the lights would follow her down the hall to her room. She became accustomed to wishing them a good night with a child's blessing, and they would all slowly fade to darkness. Huh. We're going to cross the street and just go about halfway down.
There's that winery. Love that place.
Oh, that's brick.
Nice place.
This location of Southtstage Cellars was built in 1865 by Patrick Ryan. He was one of the town's first people who built brick buildings. He also built the Jacksonville Inn, which is another brick structure. Over the years, this has been a home, a law office, a butcher shop, and an ice cream saloon. Most recently, this was the home of Robbie Collins, who is the individual who, when the state was going to build a highway down our main drag and knock out 11 of our historic buildings, started a preservation society. And he was instrumental in getting us our historic landmark designation. And he later on went on to become an internationally known historic preservationist. I can personally declare that building spirit-free because all they serve there are award-winning wines. Very cool. You folks remember my mentioning Cornelius Beekman, who paid for the Presbyterian Church? This was his bank. On the corner where it says Wells Fargo Company Express. And he came here in the very early 1850s as an express writer, taking gold and letters by horseback across the Siskiyous to Wairika. In fact, most of the gold that was mined in this area passed across the counter of that run. And when he retired in 1915, he walked out the door, locked it, and it has been a museum ever since. It is exactly the way it was. Now, in the summer, that building is open. I think it's only open until Labor Day, but you can see a lot through the windows. It's a very interesting historic treasure of the town. And you'll notice there's a little fence area there. That is the site of one of the town wells, which explains why this wooden building is one of the few that ever survived the many, many fires that burned down every other brick
Because of the well and the
building
water.
in Jacksonville. All right, we're going to head to the corner, cross the street, and end up in front of the Bella Union. We're standing in front of the oldest part of the Bella Union Restaurant Saloon. Early Jacksonville counted at least 36 saloons. Jacksonville's Masonic Hall, across the street here, was built on the site of the most notorious temple to vice in the early mining camp, the El Dorado Saloon. The El Dorado ran almost the entire length of the block. Now, it was destroyed by fire in 1874, as was the original Bella Union here, from 1864 to 1871. But our pioneer ancestors were quick to rebuild, and this section of the current Bella Union was built that same year, 1871. A sturdy brick building that has withstood all of the later fires. Well, it still retains its ghosts. Now, when one of the current owners came in early one day to do his meal prep, he heard the sound of drunken male laughter, but there was no one here. The laughter continued, and he found himself joining in. Now, you are invited to share in the high spirits of the Bella Union, if you choose to. On the back of your ticket, I believe, is a discount for food and drink. And should you choose to indulge in a different kind of spirits than the one we've been talking about tonight. Should you feel that your evening has been quite spirited enough, I thank you for joining us on our historic haunted history tour of historic Jacksonville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions? I'll take that lantern.
Well, I thought that was part of the...
Thanks for carrying it. Yeah, you're welcome.
So Eugenia, that is the haunted house tour. I hope you liked it. That was really cool. I totally enjoyed that. I'm tired walking all over the whole town. So yeah, okay. I definitely want to do the second one. The second one is the Brit Hill tour. That's another hour, but probably have to wait maybe till next year or something for that one. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go home and have dinner now. So it's been pretty busy down here, but hopefully you could hear it with all the traffic and everything else. And okay, love you, and I'll see you in my next video.